Imagine waking up one day to find that overnight, you have a wife and kids, but just yesterday, you were single. Something similar happens to Kong, a famous South Korean actor. His growing fame has made him arrogant. He lives in a luxurious apartment, always accompanied by a man named Yoon. Yoon once dreamed of becoming an actor himself, but after failing, he became Kang's manager. One night, Kong wins the Best Actor award, a moment broadcast nationwide, including to a woman named Elena. Years ago, when Kong was struggling, Elena was his girlfriend. Now, she's in Seoul for her art exhibition. It's December 24th. Yoon, feeling tired, wants to go home, but Kong drags him to a bar they used to frequent before fame changed everything. There, they begin reminiscing about the old days when both Kong and Yoon auditioned for a film, but only Kong was lucky enough to land the role. Yoon then says, if you hadn't gotten that role, today, you'd probably have a beautiful family with Elena. This brings back memories for Kong, memories of how, 10 years ago, he left Elena in that very bar to chase his acting dreams, while she left for New York to pursue her passion for painting. After a while, Yoon headed home, and Kong hailed a taxi to his luxurious apartment. As Kong sat quietly in the back seat, the driver glanced at him in the rearview mirror and said, "It's every man's dream to live a life like yours." But Kong, almost bitterly, replied, "No one knows how lonely it is on the inside." Just as the driver was about to say something more, he asked a strange question: if you could change anything about your life, what would you do? Before Kong could answer, his vision blurred. When his eyes opened again, he found himself on the cold floor of a modest home. Disoriented, he barely had time to process what was happening when two young children rushed to him, calling out, "Daddy!" Confused, Kong looked around, only to lock eyes with Elena, who was now standing before him, his wife. Elena, concerned and puzzled, assumed that the effects of his late-night drinking hadn't worn off yet. She calmly explained, "This is your house, and those are our kids." Still in shock, Kong couldn't make sense of what was happening. He tried calling Yoon, but there was no answer. Frustrated, he decided to head to his apartment to figure it out, only to be stopped by the guards at the gate. They didn't even recognize him. Determined, Kong managed to reach the front door of his apartment, but the lock wouldn't budge. Just as he was about to force it open, someone inside unlocked the door. In a panic, Kong began creating a scene, convinced that the man was trying to steal his home. But the man, equally confused, thought Kong was his wife's lover. As Kong continued to shout that he was the richest and most famous actor in the country, the onlookers began to think he had lost his mind. His wild outbursts only escalated, and soon, he found himself at the police station, fuming with anger. But when the officers checked the papers, they shocked him with the news: the house wasn't even in his name. Everything he had built, the fame, the wealth, his life, had vanished in a single night. In a daze, Kong barely registered Elena's arrival at the station. She calmly explained to the police that he is her husband. But Kong, still lost in disbelief, kept insisting, "I don't know this woman." He questioned again and again, "Am I really married to Elena?" Frustrated, Elena slapped him hard below the ear, snapping him out of his dreamlike state. And that's when his eyes caught sight of a taxi nearby. Suddenly, memories of the previous night flooded back. He had been in that very taxi. As soon as his eyes closed then, his world had flipped upside down. Back at home, Elena explained that they were behind on rent and that Kong needed to stop drinking and start working. Meanwhile, Kong, desperate to return to his real life, set out with his children to find the taxi driver. Despite searching everywhere, the driver was nowhere to be found. When he asked his children about their life, they told him that Kong was an actor, but not famous. Rui then showed him one of his films. Watching himself on screen, a smile spread across his face as a sense of joy returned. That night, as Elena sat down to talk with him, Kong confessed, "I came to this world after sitting in a strange taxi. In real life, I'm not married to you." Elena, concerned and perplexed, wondered if Kong had truly lost his mind. Later that night, Kong lay awake in bed, struggling to sleep beside Elena. Though deep down, he still loved her, the years of solitude had made it difficult to adjust. Living and sharing everything with her and their children felt strange, difficult, and honestly boring. Yet, somehow, he knew he had to adapt to this new life. One night, Elena shared some surprising news. Mystic TV had selected Kong for a role in a film. Although the channel didn't have much viewership, Kang's performance was outstanding. His family, however, was overjoyed by his success, and for the first time in a while, Kong felt a sense of pride in his work. Days later, Kong discovered something shocking: Yoon had become the country's biggest superstar. That realization hit Kong hard. His life had changed, but so had Yoon's. The next day, Kong managed to find his way to the agency where Yoon had become a star. They met, and to Kang's surprise, Yoon recognized him. Yoon invited Kang to dinner, and it was there that Kang learned the truth. During their audition for the film years ago, Kang had raced to the airport to stop Elena from leaving, and that's why Yoon had been cast in the lead role instead of him. Shocked and overwhelmed by the revelation, Kang rushed to find Elena. He asked her, "What if you had gone to New York that day, 10 years ago? What would have happened?" Elena smiled gently and replied, "My life with you and our children is what I cherish most. Nothing else matters." A few days later, Kang went for another audition. He acted brilliantly, but when the producers realized that he was Yoon's friend, they asked him to convince Yoon to take the role. When Kang told Yoon about it, Yoon explained that he had deliberately passed on the film so Kang could take it and provide for his family. He also offered Kang a job as his manager. Later, while playing with his children, disaster struck. Kang's son Jin was seriously injured. They rushed him to the hospital, where Elena arrived shortly after. That was when Kang learned that Elena had given up her painting career to work in a store. He felt sick to his stomach, disgusted with himself. He hadn't been able to provide for his family, he had no money and was doing odd jobs. Determined to change, Kang went to Yoon and asked to work as his manager. He threw himself into his new role, using his real-life experiences to help Yoon earn more money and even taught him some acting techniques. But Yoon struggled with his lines, and after a while, the director decided to replace him with Kang as the lead. This time, Kang put his heart and soul into his work, something he had never done before. His director and family were thrilled with his performance. For the first time, Kang felt fulfilled not by fame or fortune, but by the love of his family and the satisfaction of knowing he was providing for them. With hard work, dedication, and a changed perspective, Kang finally started living the life he had always dreamed of with his family, happy and together. One day, Kang took his family to see a new house, a gift from Yoon. But Elena didn't like it. She didn't want to leave the old house, where so many memories of their life together with their children had been created. Kang, on the other hand, wanted to provide them with a better life, leading to a heated argument between them. That night, unable to sleep, Kang went to his children's room. As he looked at them, he realized something profound. While he no longer had his old luxurious life, he had something far more valuable: his family. He was finally content. Months passed, and Kang gradually forgot about his old life. He settled into his new life, where his film became a hit, and he was loved by people all over the country. His transformation from a manager to an actor was complete, yet he continued to work for Yoon. One night, however, Kang unknowingly found himself sitting in the same taxi that had started everything. The driver, in his usual cryptic way, told Kang that he would soon return to his old life. But Kang had changed. He no longer wanted to go back to that life, he wanted to stay with his wife and children. When Kang arrived home, he hugged his children tightly, overwhelmed by the love he felt for them. As he looked at their faces, he realized he could never leave them, no matter what. That night, he hugged Elena too, content in the moment. As he fell asleep, he felt at peace. But when he woke up, he was back in his luxurious apartment. Yoon was there, and Kang, confused, asked about Elena's exhibition. Yoon replied that today was her last day in this city. Kang was startled. Had it only been a day? It felt like a lifetime. He rushed to the exhibition, but by the time he arrived, the paintings had been taken down. Then, something caught his eye, a painting of the very house where he had lived with Elena and their children. He couldn't believe it. He approached Elena and asked her why she painted it. Where had the inspiration come from? As they stood outside the house, the painting in hand, Kang realized something he hadn't fully understood before. The moments he spent with his family in that humble house were the most beautiful of his life. 2 years later, Kang and Elena were happily married, with 2 children, Ruhi and Jin. The dream life he had once longed for had become his reality, not through fame or fortune, but through love and family. If you've seen this video at this very end, thanks for watching. And also subscribe for more videos.